Welcome back to Podhalla. Brian and I are here with our special guest and our favorite guest, as we told him in person, because we got to hang out with Conrado Pascual at the Juste WarriorsWorld event. And Conrado actually got to play a little bit of a podcaster slash interviewer at the event, and a lot of fun. So welcome back, Conrado. What's up, man?
Yeah, thank you guys for having me back. It's always a pleasure. It's getting exciting. We've passed the quarterway mark of the regular season. The Valkyries, they're never short on news and narratives, and I don't say that pejoratively, but there's just always something interesting percolating with this team. So yeah, just really excited to be back.
So we'll talk about that event at the tail end of this podcast. I
Sure.
specifically told you stay that we are officially the You Stay pod of all the podcasts because we've just been talking about her pretty much since day one. And we will have a segment because there's been some interesting comments by head coach Natalie Nakase about her usage, which did not come to fruition, by the way, at least in the last game. Maybe she will play a little bit more on Friday. But let's kick it off because I think we're at a pretty cool point in the season. We are at the Valkyries have played 12 games, so just over the quarter part of the season. And I
Right.
kind of wanted to do a little bit of a grading, a quarter season grading. I think some podcasters and some websites have been doing this. I didn't look at that for the reason, but I just noticed that we were just past that quarter point. And I wanted to get your thoughts, both of your thoughts on, the grade, which is always a grade versus an expectation that is played into the grade. If the team was expected to lose every game and then they're like 500, they're going to get like an A or something just based on who
Right.
you thought they were going to be. And the Valkyries, I think the fans, are probably expected them to be better than last year, and I think they are. But at the same time, some of them thought that they would be in even better position than they are today. I don't know if I necessarily thought that, especially against Las Vegas and Minnesota, who they've had to play 3 games against, both of those teams together. And so let's talk about this. Brian, why don't you lead off? Like, if you were to give a grade for the first 11 to 12 games of this season, 44 games this year, how would you grade the Valkyries?
I'd probably go I'd probably go with a B. I feel like my expectations for this team was around the 6 to 8 seed range. But I do think that there is opportunity to climb for maybe like 4 or 5. But for now they're sixth in standings. They haven't seen two of the top 6 teams in Dallas and Atlanta. Surprisingly, it's not their defense that's, their premier side of the ball right now. It's they're number 2 in offense and number 5 in defense, which I think the number 2 in offense was unexpected as of, right now. And so I think I'd go with B. They're about right where I thought they'd be, but I do think they have opportunity to be better.
So I'm using the Her Hoop stats, and I'm looking at points per 100 possessions, and I'm looking at the margin per 100 possessions. And the Valkyries are 5th at 5.8. And you know what's wild? Now, I haven't even looked at schedule and how this has played out. Minnesota is tops in the league at a margin per 100 possessions of 16.5, more than double number 2, who is New York, and Atlanta and Las Vegas are right there. And when you can like divvy up these stats whichever way that you want, I think the Valkyries in a 15-team league, they're probably going to be favorable in many of them. And I think B is solid. B is it's probably where I was leaning. But Conrado, you get to talk to other beat writers and other people who are very smart about this team. Do you think that some of the fans have too high of expectations of where they should be today, or did you similarly think that they might be a win or two higher than they are right now?
I mean, like, analytically speaking, right, with regards to like kind of like net rating and everything, they probably could have like one more win. And I think that's fair to say, right? If you look at like late game execution against, say, like Las Vegas, and Minnesota, right? Maybe even to a lesser extent, Chicago, right? You could make an argument they should have at least like maybe should or could have one more win between those 3 games. But overall, for the fans that think they have underachieved, then I probably would say that maybe their expectations were a little bit too high. I had a little bit more of an optimistic outlook, maybe than Brian. Like Brian said, 6 to 8. I was more like they're a top 16, and I'm still there. I'm still there. I mean, it's funny as you said, like through the first quarter of the season, right? Like statistically speaking, they are relatively more uh they're relatively more impressive offensively than they are defensively, or at least they grade out better offensively than they do defensively. And yet I think the sentiment amongst Valkyries fans is that we have a very stale, if not putrid offense, right? And I've may not have used those adjectives all the time, but I've definitely shared a lot of those sentiments. It's kind of funny, like, and I guess we can go into it. Like, they have really mastered the art of being really good at a very inefficient style of offense. Like, and they work. I mean, a quarter of the season is a fairly large sample, and again, their shot profile is largely similar to what they did last year. So, like, I don't think it's a complete, like, just aberration or variance. Like, I actually do think this is a style of offense that they're not only comfortable running, but like they can do it. So it's weird. I think we could dive a little bit more into it, but I'm also with Brian. I give him a B, largely because they've met what my expectations are. Like, given the personnel of this roster, I just do think that they are limited in terms of what they can do, more so offensively. So, like, I don't really think they've exceeded my expectations there. Defensively, I mean, like, they are generating the toughest shot profile for opponents. Opponents just happen to be cashing in on those contested shots. So if there is something that you believe there's going to be some regression in the final 3/4 of the season, I'd like to think it's that, just because, again, like when we watch it, you could tell they're definitely making things difficult for opponents. And even like, as laughable as it is seeing the screenshots of, say, like Asia Wilson having to fight through 5 Valkyrie defenders, it's not easy. That speaks to her offensive brilliance, right? So I don't know. I feel like there is some defensive, like positive defensive regression coming up soon, where again, that's where they can really start to continue climbing the standings and cement themselves more in that top 6 range, as opposed to being kind of like on the playoff bubble.
There was another outlier game. Now, I think Olivia Miles has shot considerably better since that Valkyries game than she had previously, but I'm sure the game plan was like, let's protect against her drives, and because her drives are going to create shots for everyone else. And so, she's just chucking from 3 and just cashing everything. And you could say that that's one of those things. What you said is sort of like you're kind of dealing with some bad luck maybe on your end. Like, you may be doing the right thing, and then the other team is just executing at a high level. But the other thing, I think, when it comes to the expectation, I think what is hard to rationalize is losing Ileana Rupert right as the season starts.
Okay.
Because if you take that into account, then maybe you do drop the Valkyries down 1 or 2 teams in your preseason rankings or whatever. Kia Stokes is a little bit of a target for fans who are watching these games. And I understand why. Like, there have been stretches where she will play some really consistent basketball. She will get out there and block shots. She's defending, she's rebounding. And then there are other stretches where you almost forget that she's on the court, which is kind of hard because she's generally the tallest player on the court. And she's got great size and great physicality. And sometimes, we'll be in our chat on the Discord, and I'll just be like, I just wish she would play a little bit more like a big. Like, there are moments where there's somebody who sneaks in from the weak side to grab a rebound, and I'm like, you're right there. Like, if you just moved your body a foot and a half to the right, that person can't get through. But at the same time, she is thrust into the position of being the starting center when she was signed to be the backup and to play
Right.
not that many minutes. And now she's playing more minutes than they wanted to play her. So that's something where you have to rationalize when it comes to these expectations. Is if you thought Kia Stokes was going to be, a top 5 center in this league just because she was starting and playing minutes with this team, well, that's just not what she is at this point in her career. And so I think that is a tough thing. But it brings up another point, which is, I know, something that you wanted to talk about, Conrado, is we saw early on in the season, Leticia Emihir was the little engine that could. She is not the same size as a lot of the bigs, and yet she was scrapping and she was outquicking them and she was causing fouls and she was taking charges. And all of those things were happening. And then it feels like she kind of had a bad game and then boom, out of the rotation completely. And we haven't seen her. Have you guys asked Natalie about that? Has she had any comments about why? And all of a sudden, why is Emihir not in? They've gone to this like smaller ball lineup with more shooters, but it seems like Emihir is the odd person out in the rotation right now.
Yeah, we've asked Natalie a number of times. Her answer has been consistent, which she just says it's matchup related. I think there is truth to that. I think there's a little bit more to it. I'm not going to say that there's anything like, controversial or ominous, but like I think that when she started out the season, again, right, she and Kia Stokes were essentially kind of platooning the center spot. Mixed results, but at least they were giving like some kind of, I don't even want to say stability, but like at least there was some kind of backline resistance, like consistent backline resistance. Let's put it that way, right? Between the two of them. I'm actually writing an article today about lineup combinations, and I'd always thought that Emihir would ultimately play more minutes than Stokes because of her ability to handle the ball.
Mm-hmm.
I actually interviewed like Aaliyah Boston and Raven Johnson about that. They really highlighted that, ability, that aspect of her game. And we saw that in those first couple games of the season, right? Where in her lineups, in the lineups that involved LA, she would be able to clear the rebound, and then she doesn't have to pitch it ahead to VB or Gabby. She'll, take the ball down herself. Now you see the team getting up, like up court with a little bit more pace, right? They're playing a little bit more up tempo. My theory is why are the Valkyries playing so slow? I think that when they have to go to those small lineups, it's crucial for them that the team collectively has to crash the glass, so nobody can leak out. So you're not really getting any of like those cherry picking or fast break opportunities. Makes sense. But the thing is, I think with Emihir, I think especially like the Fever game, like LA kind of got away because she knew Aaliyah Boston's tendencies, and she was able to draw some like questionable offensive fouls, right? Aaliyah Boston even kind of joked about that. But once that Vegas game came around, like again, even though she could do certain things well, her offensive limitations, other than handling the ball, the shooting, the lack of any like ability to consistently do anything like down low, like she'll try to use her speed advantage against other bigs, but if they stand their ground, then you can see like, she was taking a lot of a lot of errant shots. I think Natalie just kind of got a little frustrated with some of like her decision making on the offensive end. And so I think after that, it's true. If you look at it, the lineups where like KT and Amihir are the 4 and the 5, compared to the lineups where Janelle and KT are the 4 and the 5, like there's just a marginally better defensively when Amihir's in there, but they're obviously significantly better offensively when it's Ja and KT at the 4 and the 5. So I think just kind of my interpretation of it, like I think Natalie just would prefer then to at least have a front court that forces the opposition to like defend them, especially out to the perimeter. And we've seen how Ja, like they know they're gonna have to defend her because they know like that shot's going up like as soon as the ball touches her hands. So I think that's kind of why. But again, like LA, she has been literally staying ready. During practices, they have what's called stay ready games. So like for like the back end of the roster, the developmental players, if they haven't been getting any like game action lately, they go through like a full like intense scrimmage. So she's definitely been working. She's saying like all the right things. She's saying it's her job to be ready. But other than just saying it's matchup dependent or matchup related as to her DNPs, there hasn't been any like actual like significant clarification.
So we all are in agreement that they're probably around a B for this first quarter of the season. But I think if you look at the teams that they have played and the games in which, if we look at the standings, for instance, there are a couple of teams who are just head and shoulders above what the Valkyries are. And the Valkyries played them strong, but could not get that W, late in the game there that they just got outplayed. Minnesota, obviously, they are killing people. They are 10-2. The Aces, who have had some interesting losses, but both times they played the Valkyries, they were playing with their A game. Atlanta Dream, 8-3. Liberty, 8-4. We beat the Liberty. Dallas Wings, 7-4. And then you have the Valkyries at 7-5. You had the Tempo at 7-5. I think most fans would agree that, the two teams up top, the Lynx and the Aces, those are kind of the measuring sticks. And what do the Valkyries need to do? And I'll start with you, Brian. What do you think they need to do to maybe get to that next level to really compete with those two teams? They're close. And I think they play so hard. And even I forget who was the person who talked about the defense, saying that the defense is really may have been the Aces coach, actually. But they're close, but there's still a little bit of a distance. And I don't know what you guys thought about that second Aces game. I was like, this game is better, but I still do not have the confidence that the Valkyries are going to come away with this game. Jackie Young and Asia Wilson on the other side, and Chelsea Gray. Like, it's just like, okay, those are three clutch players. And I was pretty confident that they were going to hit big shots, and I was not confident coming on the other side. So, Brian, what do you think needs to happen for them to kind of get to that next level?
I think Conrado kind of talked about it with some of the games that we've lost, and just kind of late game execution, having close games against Vegas and Minnesota, two of the top teams in the league. I feel I'm kind of with you though with the Aces. Like I kind of think we're just outclassed. Like I think they're just our genuine counter, and I don't really see a world in which we can beat them at this current moment with this current roster. But with Minnesota, I felt like there were a few things that, at least like substitution and lineup wise down the stretch, that could have been changed, that maybe could have resulted in a win. I just don't feel that way with Vegas. I don't know if you could have, switched up some players and put in some players and much would have changed. Like you said, Asia and Jackie, like Jackie was going nuts at the end with just hitting these threes. But on the Minnesota side, it was just Courtney Williams just, running like these pick and rolls and then just getting to a mid-range spot. It's like, well, yeah, if you have Kia Stokes that is switching onto you and she just gets to stop on a dime and shoot a mid-range wide open shot, her patented shot, that's going to go in every single time. So I think there's maybe lineup combinations for that game that I could see a world in where we beat Minnesota this year. I don't know about when Nafisa comes back, how that's going to look, but at least with that current iteration of the Lynx, I think we can get one on them. But yeah, with the Aces, like I don't know. Until we get another big body, someone a bigger player who can help with Asia a little bit. Like, sure, Asia's always going to get hers, but I think just having someone who just gives her just like a little bit of resistance, we're just missing that. I did think it was interesting how this time around, instead of having Kia Stokes as like the primary defender on some possessions, it was KT. So Kia can kind of like be on Nalissa and roam a little bit.
Yeah,
I felt like that was definitely a different approach to it that I think worked more. But it's still, still the Aces won. But we haven't seen Atlanta, and I think that this Atlanta team can give us problems. And then we also haven't seen Dallas. And we haven't seen the Sparks either, and we haven't seen the Mystics. But I think we'll beat the Mystics. I think we'll probably beat the Sparks. But I'm interested on how this Dallas game upcoming is going to go, and Atlanta. But yeah, late game execution is a big deal, and I think I think a little bit of last year that feels reminiscent of last year too.
So Conrado, same question to you, but also I wanted you to talk about the aspect of finding a big. Is it necessary this year, and who is out there, and who could they look for maybe at the trade deadline to bring in? Because that is that is a big deal. I think it's the one glaring thing that when you watch these games that you can definitely see the need for is somebody who can just stand tall in the middle.
Yeah. Well, before I kind of talk about potential big trade targets, like, to kind of piggyback off of Brian's point, like, okay, their defensive strategy against Asia, while if you're judging the results, okay, this was a fail, but like the process, the rationale, it wasn't completely like bad. I mean, they basically forced her into, a shot diet that consisted primarily of mid-range jumpers, right? They kept her like past the nail. The problem is, at least in the early going of the season, right? Asia is shooting like around 55% on elbow jumpers. So she was totally cool, right? Accepting those looks. Now, Brian was saying, hey, the Sparks and the Mystics and all them coming up. I mean, like, knock on wood. Like, I don't want to be the guy who like jinxes this, but like, I think that is a viable game plan, say against like a Dearica Hamby or a Shakira Austin, Lauren Betts, like that kind of makes sense. Keep them outside of the restricted circle and, ideally outside the paint, try to make them, create either off the dribble or shoot some mid-range jumpers. Like, okay, cool. But with the big talk and everything like that before, the lineup change, inserting Chechi into the starting lineup, we have gotten no... There has been no advantage to this. And like the lineup with Kyla in the starting lineup, I mean, again, we did play, like, once we inserted Chechi, we happened to also start playing, elite, like elite opponents or teams that we consider to be potential, like championship contenders, as you guys said, right? Like the Minnesota and the Aces. But like, I could definitely, and make no mistake, I'm not trying to say that like the starting lineups kind of slow starts have been Chechi's fault, but if I had to guess, I think Natalie wanted another, obviously a 3-point threat, someone that would force the defense, like, to step out of the paint, to really stretch the defense. But I mean, Kyla was thriving in her role as just kind of like that point of attack stopper. I kind of compared her the other day to OKC Thabo Cephalosha, right? You just start the game. You start the game, right? You wear the opponent down, you play defense, you shoot the occasional catch and shoot three. I mean, I like Chechi being able to come in and just like, hunt her shots, kind of like the way she and Ja did last year. So I wonder moving forward, but yeah, all of these weird lineup combinations are a result of, again, basically the lack of consistency from the center spot, right? Which right now Natalie's indirectly telling us that no, she doesn't have any confidence for any of the quote unquote centers on this roster to man the position for extended stretches. And maybe sometime in the near future, we'll see Nadia Fingal. That'd be cool just to see what she could do. But again, I don't think she's a solution, you know? So to answer your question, in terms of candidates who I think are realistic, like trade targets, I mean, it depends, right? You want to hope that certain teams continue to lose, so maybe their teams would be more willing to part with them. But a center that we just saw on Tuesday, I think Natasha Mack would fit this team really well, both stylistically, and be just enough of an upgrade where not only can you keep her in extended stretches, right? But again, right, you're not having to come up with lineup combinations to mask the center position, and that'll keep the Janelle KT small ball front court fresh to maybe close out halves, or close out games. But other than that, it's tough. Again, I know a lot of us in the media room, we would love to see Cam Brink end up as a Valkyrie, just because again, definitely fits cap wise, right? You can make that work. But again, you'd kind of have to hope that the Sparks continue losing to be motivated to at least consider it. But other than that, while there are a lot of talented centers out there, I know we're talking about the Valkyries. I don't want to continue making Warriors parallels, but I think Natalie is selective about the type of center she wants, because you could throw out a bunch of centers who may be available on the trade market, say Elizabeth Williams or Lee Rue, right? But would Natalie really feel confident that they could give you as much or more production than Kia Stokes or Amir? I'm skeptical, right? So I feel if they were to make a move, it would have to be a relatively big move, right? You're trading for a notable name. Otherwise, yeah, I could see them just waiting until the off season,
You're muted. I don't know if you're trying to talk, but I mean, yeah, there are players that, I agree with you on the Nat side for, she likes a specific center. If I get, just thinking about who's been a center for this team, like Temi, Illy, and Kia. I feel like Kia is kind of of the Temi mold a little bit of there's just not much to expect offensively, but athletic defensively, and doesn't really let people get. I feel like that's kind of what it is, where it's Kia's gonna play drop, but at least guards aren't gonna get by her. She's gonna give them the 3-point shot or the mid-range shot. So it's okay, we're gonna die by that, but we're not gonna die by layups. So I wonder how Natasha Mack fits there. I'm assuming you've probably watched more Phoenix Mercury than I have, but is she someone who, can, I guess, keep up with the speed they want to play, and also, keep up with I don't know, just the defensive expectations that they have too, where an anchor defensively can bring some of those shot blocking qualities at that position.
Yeah. Again, we are literally dead last in pace, so I don't think she'll hurt that, right? If anything, I think her game would be more conducive to being able to play more up tempo. I think she's significantly of our current options, she's significantly better rim runner, a good pick and roll option, and everything like that. And again, she's 6'4", so she's really mobile. She has a lot of bounce, especially laterally. So that's kind of why I was okay, that seems like a potentially realistic trade target. Because again, I know I know a lot of fans want to throw out names like Ezzy, Magabor and stuff like that. And make no mistake, I think that would be the ultimate perfect fit in terms of giving us what we want on both ends, right? Specifically, right? She'll give like everything you want as you know, a pick and roll threat on offense. But again, you know, you're trying to poach. If you're trying to poach from like the teams that are pretty much lottery bound, you know, you might want to look at, say, like Connecticut with Aaliyah Edwards. I mean, she's probably more of like a traditionally a 4, but on this team,
Yeah.
like, let's be real, you're a 5. You know what I'm saying? So, you know,
I feel like, you know, like some of the team, and we've lost against more teams than what I'm about to say kind of fits around, but I felt like we had a clear weakness, and it makes sense because our 5 position is the weakest position on the team. The backup point guard position, some of the stuff we knew going into the season is still kind of an issue today. And, you know, when they played Aaliyah Boston, like, yeah, Amihir just baited those fouls because she had no chance at guarding Aaliyah. You could tell, like, Aaliyah was going to get her way with whatever she wanted to do against Amihir. And so Amihir had to draw some of those offensive charges, and then playing against Asia, and then playing, like, this is a league where, you know, guards are starting to become, since I've been watching, starting to become, you know, some of the top players, but it's still a league ran by Asia Wilson, by Nafisa Collier, by Alyssa Thomas, and we kind of have the Alyssa thing, I think, figured out with how the way this Mercury team is playing right now. But I don't feel confident when Nafisa comes back against Minnesota. I don't feel confident against Asia. So it's, you know, the best players in the league are at that 4-5 position, and I think that's kind of our weakest defensive position. And yeah, you don't really get, I guess you don't really make that, you're not really able to make that change mid-season, at least seamlessly. And yeah, I mean, that's why, yeah, Ezzy would be great, you know, in that regard, just being able to it's not like she could stop any of those players, but just putting more resistance, because I feel like they're such a good team defense, but they need someone to give a little bit of resistance to Asia so then they can collapse. And I think when you, at least in the first game they played the Aces, I thought it was clear that when Kia was, you know, playing, and she was able to at least like stay in front of Asia and kind of put her hands up. So Asia, you know, if she wanted to, she could take that jumper, but she wanted to kind of pound inside, and then you can collapse her. But when it was KT out there in the first game, because in the second game, I think they kind of figured this out a little bit, but in the first game, when it was KT out there, Asia could just shoot right over her, and there was just no resistance in that regard. And so then if she's just able to shoot right over KT and not take a dribble inside, I think, because once she puts the ball down, then then the double teams come in, and then she's got to make a pass out to the perimeter. And I think that's when they have their best success, is when you force Asia to be, you know, a passer instead of a scorer. And I think in the second game they did that better, and then you just kind of, Jackie Young just kind of goes off, and I guess that's what happens. But yeah, you know, a league with the best players being at the position we struggle the most in is definitely, you know, something that hopefully and gets figured out some way or another.
And it's not even just Asia when you play the Aces, because then you think you get a break, and then Nalissa Smith comes in and she's jumping over people, getting rebounds and getting putbacks, and you're just like, oh my gosh, it just never ends. Okay, so I think this will be a conversation pretty much for the rest of the season. As you can tell with these lineups, they're trying to adjust for them. Yeah, I want to give KT credit. I think she understands the assignment. You see her crashing rebounds much harder than she has in the past, and when she's playing a little bit more out in the wing. I think Janelle is getting used to it a little bit more, but it's just, you can tell it's just not instinctual with her. You know, when she needs to maybe go crash or something, like it's, you see a little bit of second guessing there. So maybe with more minutes, it'll be a little bit more instinctual for her. But like these folks are having to play in uncomfortable positions, you can tell, and you cannot say that the effort isn't there, because these ladies are playing hard, and that's why the Valkyries can compete in all these games, is because they do play hard, and their defense never lets up. And you know, we can complain about why it just seems like Veronica has the ball with 8 seconds left and they have nothing going on. Like the stats show, offensively they are still scoring the basketball. So let's change gears and let's talk a little bit about the Juste comments that we were mentioning, which is whether or not she's going to play with the ball in her hands a little bit more. And the question was asked, or a question was asked to Natalie, and she had a response about maybe figuring out how Juste can have some more reps in the game with her being a primary ball handler. And so I think a lot of the Valkyries fan base got super excited. They were like, oh, maybe we're going to see it. And then Juste didn't play at all in the last game. And then we saw her over the weekend. And, you know, she's, by the way, fantastic personality. If she becomes a top level player, she's going to be a star, because just personality wise, she's so great.
Yeah.
She's so seasoned. She's so savvy. Her answers, there's a hint of comedic, you know, timing to them. And we'll talk about your interview in a second, Conrado. But the fact that Natalie kind of set the fans up for something and then just like pulled the carpet from under us, I thought that was kind of weird in a sense. Like, first, I wonder why she went so public with those comments, and then second, it did feel a little bit like, why did you get our hopes up?
I mean, I get my interpretation of why, because again, I think we all know that, like, again, Natalie is in general a very friendly, and she's definitely a good quote. There's no doubt about that.
Absolutely.
But when it comes to anything like X's and O's or anything tactical, she's pretty tight-lipped, right? She'll give you a very generic answer. So, as you were saying earlier, the question, which was posed by Marissa and Jemmy of Valkyries Beat, the question was very just like simple. It's like, oh, like how's Juste's like progress coming along? And it was Natalie who like just went very in depth about specifically what Juste was doing at practice, the plan for her, both short term and long term, and again, how she wants Juste to not only take on a primary ball handling role, but she also wants her to get to the level where she's comfortable as a primary decision maker. So yes, I mean, I think the excitement and the enthusiasm from the fan base was well warranted. It's like, this is what we thought. Now, a couple things about Juste, and this is just kind of like from having interviewed her like at practice. She definitely is very comfortable as a pick and roll initiator, but I don't think that she really sees herself as a full-time point guard. Definitely not yet, right? I think ultimately she would probably be cool as like a 2 or maybe like a point forward, you know, in certain lineups. I think the power forward thing definitely kind of shocked her, but like, hey, I to her credit, and like she's very like candid about this. She believes that, you know, she needs to improve on her screen setting, but in the screens that she set as a Valkyrie, they've been pretty solid. So who knows, right? Maybe that's what gave Natalie a little confidence to try it out in that game. But I think Natalie wanted to make that public, one, because it's definitely been a topic of conversation amongst the fan base, amongst the media, and everything like that. And I think also to just kind of give Juste, and let's be real, her camp, a little clarity as regards to like what their intentions are with her moving forward. Now, having said that, being 7-5 looks a lot better than being 6-6. Especially when you start out the season 6-3, right? So I feel like Natalie kind of like, this is just what I think. Like, I feel like it was very important that they really lock in this win, you know? So there was not, if it was, no offense, if it was like Connecticut, then cool. She'll find a way to get both probably Juste and even Amihir some minutes, you know? But given that, like, they needed to win, just again, like, to just stay ahead of the count, I felt like that's why they shortened the rotation. Because even when Tip, you know, she took that, like, hit to the neck or whatever, and she tried coming back, but, like, she, like, basically tapped out for the rest of the game. I mean, they didn't bring Caitlin back in. Caitlin only played 3 minutes the last game, right? I mean, they ended up going with, like, essentially 6 players down the stretch.
She seems to be on a little bit of a, if she makes a mistake or the offense slows down, we're having a short leash with her. At least that's what it seemed to be of late.
Yeah, and that's why it's interesting because we thought like, oh, if Caitlyn is on a short leash, does that not then mean Juste gets a longer leash? Maybe, just not quite yet. So I don't know. At least that's how I felt about this past game. Now moving forward, it will be really telling, in terms of, what should fans really expect, not just for Juste, but the entire rotation as a whole.
You made a comment about her camp. Now, as far as I know, she has two different agents. One of them is here, one of them is international, and one of them is also very publicly unafraid to criticize the Valkyries on Twitter. A little bit of Twitter fingers going on. And when I see those tweets, they feel like kind of some of the same tweets or some of the same posts that happen in the Discord. Like as like a hardcore fan who was just like, oh, they need to win every game. Why are they losing this thing? But because of his standing and who he is, you cannot look at it as just a random fan. You have to see where the bias in the commentary comes from. And in your history of doing this, which I know isn't long, but you've been around the game for so long, Conrado. Do you sense that the Valkyries care about any of that stuff? Like, does the Valkyries as the basketball operations, do they care if those tweets kind of go viral and people are retweeting saying who this person is, or do they just like that's just part of kind of the deal?
Well, I mean, again, I think they do care to a certain extent. Now, who cares and how they, feel about it and approach it are different, right? Because I
Right.
mean, like there's the Valks communications and PR, then there's actual the Valks coaching staff, right? And so obviously you work together, but at the same time they have like their different things that they need to attend to. I know with Natalie, I mean, she has like pretty much like her daily check-ins, right? So she'll check in with each player at the very least, like every practice day and every day that's not a blackout day. Blackout day is basically like a day where you do nothing basketball related. Go unwind, watch a movie, go to the park, do something non-basketball related. So she does that, and that's like her way of being able to just get an idea of where they are, both physically, mentally, maybe emotionally. So I mean, I'm sure they do care, but I don't think, at least with regards to, does it influence how they go about their game preparations? I don't think so. If anything that we've seen, Natalie, I'm not saying that she's not flexible or incapable of making like in-game adjustments, but like she and her coaching staff, she'll always say, right, Kasib Powell, Landon Tatum, Sugar Rogers, right? I mean, they collectively come up with a pretty like comprehensive game plan, from opponent to opponent. So like, I don't think it affects them, but I'm probably sure like the other higher ups, like the probably don't enjoy that. But again, I don't think it has too much influence in terms of how they go about their business.
Yeah, I feel like when I read them, and we got to meet Pocholo in person, so that was nice to meet him. And I don't know, I feel like I read it as, I understand what you're saying, but I feel like I read it as like it really does sound like a concerned fan from our Discord, like it really. So I feel like it's not, because you think about the Golden State operation and what they had to deal with on the Warriors side with Kuminga and his agent, where Kuminga's agent it felt very much like, you see, like this is where you see he's not playing him. You see, it would have been, the outcome could have been different if you played him. Where Pocholo's kind of like, he's like, can Gabby and VB like play for this many minutes? And I agree with them. They're playing way too much than they probably should have to. And you worry about like burnout, and you worry about because this is like these women play year long, man. Gabby's gonna go back to I'm forgetting the team name, but the team in Turkey, and she's gonna play after the season, and it's just it's a year long thing for these women. And I do feel like there's a difference. There's a clear difference in how these two have approached it. But I wouldn't be surprised if like the Golden State operation is like we've seen this before, but to me like it's different. It's like it's pretty different.
So we were at the event over the weekend, and it was very well done. Like, I've been to sheet events, as I know Conrado has, over years and years. And the cool thing about this event, it was a Valkyries event. So, the audience was a lot different. And I thought that was really cool. And B, Conrado got to be a big part of this thing, which I thought was really cool. And so I guess the original, the guy from 95.7 dropped out. You were asked to replace him to interview Juste, and I was like, who better than Conrado to interview her? Somebody who has interviewed her and talked to her in the past, and also somebody who I don't know that the guy who was supposed to do it very well. I don't imagine he follows the WNBA probably even half as closely as you do. So I thought, this is a perfect opportunity for Conrado to do it, because it's just going to be a better interview. And I put you, I told you this in person, but I thought you did a phenomenal job. You didn't have a whole lot of time to kind of think it through, but you were able to ask her questions that were both kind of very basketball related, but that also allowed her to show off some personality.
Yeah.
You made the comment about playing 4, and she was like, I don't even know if I really knew the plays like very well. Like, she was outwardly saying that. You gave her the opportunity to talk about her celebration and the fans. That allowed the fans to kind of, get all fired up, hoping that she would do it in a game. The one time where I could sense you were kind of trying to get somewhere to see if she would bite, and she didn't, was when she hit the step back over Caitlin. And I know you were trying to get her to say something. She was like, no dice. I'm not naming names here. But ultimately, I thought it was a fantastic interview. And so since we have you, I'm just interested in your thoughts, how it went, and, your whole experience in doing that.
Yeah, no, she's as she said herself, right? She had an opportunity to talk to the fans where she didn't have to give quote unquote media trained answers. And yes, she did not bite at my attempt to talk about her step back over Caitlin Clark, only because I had asked her about it like probably multiple times at practices. So I wanted to see if she would give a different answer, but no, I mean, as for the event itself, yeah, WarriorsWorld did a great job. And for Juste, I was genuinely happy for her. Because like earlier during the event when she was taking like a couple questions from the crowd, before the event started, she was being interviewed by KPIX, and she had made a comment that like she's always felt a lot of support, of outpouring of support and encouragement from the fans on like, social media, like Instagram. And she definitely hears her name being, like chanted at Podhalla, when she checks into game. But for her to really see, just how dedicated these fans are, that they would come, for an event on a Sunday afternoon that's just for her. No games are being played. I was really happy for her that she got to really see just how authentic and genuine the fan base is, you guys included. That again, right? Everyone, it's like what Sheed had said before the game or before the event started. Is like, if you're there because you truly love the Valkyries, you truly want to support Juste, not even just in her basketball endeavors, but her as being now a member of the community. And so I'm glad that she had an opportunity because I was definitely not trying to bait a specific response, when I asked her about like, just her thoughts about like the community, the Bay Area. And I thought that she gave a fantastic answer in terms of, her goals of trying to build that connection the same way she did when she was living in France for all those years. and again, like her desire to continue helping this organization grow, and be ideally like a perennial contender. So yeah, I just felt really appreciative of the opportunity to interview her. She's definitely not just one of the best interviews I've conducted, but she's very easy to interview, very personable person. Definitely carries herself with a lot of, as you said, a lot of charm, but a lot of humility as well.
There is definitely charm, but there's also a savviness that you don't see from a 20-year-old. And this, I'm sure this has to do a lot with her being a professional for all of these years, but she just understands how to answer questions, I think, in different environments. And in front of that audience, like, those were her people. Those were like her hardest of hardcore fans. And I thought she did a great job just like welcoming them and giving them answers that made them happy. And I thought it was really smart on her end, really smart on your end. And so Brian also had a chance to chit chat with her because he was in. They got reacquainted from the interview that Brian did a year ago. And so, Brian, you got a chance to talk to her. Like, was there anything in your conversation? And I know it's a private conversation, but was there anything that stood out to you as far as just talking to her in person versus talking to her over Zoom or StreamYard?
Not necessarily. I think the only thing that did stand out was that when I walked up to her, I was like, "Oh, you're taller than me." Like, and I'm like 6'1". Like, I'd have to get myself officially measured to see if I am 6'2", but I thought we took a picture together, and it does look like we're the same height. But I swear, like, when I was looking at her, and I was like, "You are most definitely taller than me." And you know how, like, when you're taking a picture with someone, and like, if like your hand can either go below the other person's hand or above the other person's hand when you're taking the picture, and her hand was definitely above mine because she's taller than me. The only thing that is, I think, noteworthy, because the conversation was just like, "Oh, how have you been?" kind of, but it was we got the official pronunciation for her name again, which I think we got it, during the interview that I did like a year ago. But it was like, okay, so the audio was a little like not crystal clear, so it could be still like up for interpretation how it's really pronounced. But I was talking to her like I did, then, and I was like, okay, so we've already said, like, you've already told me the way that Kathy Engelbert said your name on draft night was wrong. Jocyte is wrong.
Yeah.
And I was like, and the way that they are saying it at the stadium, the announcer is saying Yotite. I was like, that's wrong too, right?
The broadcasters as well. That's how the broadcasters
as well. And she was like, that is wrong as well. And I was like, I think it's Jocyte. And she said, that is perfect. So I don't know if the microphone's going to be perfect in capturing that, but it's like JOTS. Like, you have to really get the TS, like the Yots, like the Jocyte. And so that's it. I don't know if hopefully that one will stick. More people will pronounce it that way, but that's the official one.
Okay, when I was on mute, the reason why I was on mute is because I was doing some real-time producing. And what I was doing was I needed to pull the clip of her saying her last name from the interview. And so I want you to hear it, and everyone else can hear it, and Conrado can hear it. It's close. I think she's given us the benefit of the doubt because she even mentioned, I think, or she has mentioned that
for English speakers.
Yeah, it's a little bit hard for people who speak English to say her name. So I'm going to give it to her now, or give it to you guys now, and you guys tell me. It may just be one of those things where we're just close enough, and this is the closest we're going to get to her. But let's see if this will play.
Jocyte.
Okay, well, so that does sound a little different than what I just said.
It's hard. It's a hard sound, right? Like, it's
I don't know.
It's almost like an SSH, like a sh.
Yeah.
But that
I don't know.
there's some T.
There's some T in there, right?
This is why I totally understand why she says just call her JJ.
Yeah. or what I told Brian on air is that people screw up Victor Wembanyama all the time because they want to throw an N in there. Tim Kawakami does it every single time he says his name. He says Wembanyama just because it's easier. And so you flip and then you figure out, okay, I said it right. Wembanyama. And so what does everyone do? Everyone just calls him Wemby now, like, because it's easier. You won't screw up Wemby. Juste is an awesome name. Like,
Yeah.
I've never heard anyone named that. Like, we just call her that. It's the easiest
just
thing
call
ever.
her Juste.
And,
JJ's
like,
a good one too. JJ's a good one too.
Her
But Juste is so specific to her.
her handle is even spelled Youstay, like you stay.
She's
so I'm
saying how to
assuming-
pronounce it.
Yes, right.
I did have some folks who were in international people who were in our YouTube comments who said she says that you can say it that way, but she's making it easier for English speakers. But they had a certain way to say you stay where the pronunciation or where the harder sound should be. Whatever, like she's comfortable with it. I think she's being like I said, she's being nice to everybody. But yeah, so that I hope that for these broadcasters, just go to our friggin' YouTube page, man. We got the reel of her saying how to say her name.
Well, wasn't there like an actual pronunciation that Eric Apricot reported about?
Yeah, so they send those pronunciation guides to all the media members. And so Eric likes to share it with his readers and everything like that. But as you said, like I think it's wrong.
Right. Like
Like,
it doesn't help us
so-
like that guide is wrong that the team is giving you guys.
Well,
Yeah.
he even then referenced Brian's interview in the thing saying, okay, this is her saying her name. So it's a little bit different from the pronunciation guide. So, I think Juste herself is probably like,
Yeah.
I've been
She's
dealing
just
with
being
this.
nice.
I've been
Yeah,
dealing
that's
with this for a lot. Like, let's just make it easier for these
there's the
Americans.
charm kicking in.
right. I thought I had
Exactly,
it. The jury's still
exactly.
out.
But it's close. Like you're closer than anybody else. So, anyways, all right. So we got a game Friday, Seattle. Hopefully, the team. I mean, Seattle. As we record this right now, Seattle sits at 3-11. So they're having a tough go at it. Only Connecticut has a worse record than Seattle. But they have some very fun young talent to watch,
Yeah.
and it will be very, very fun to watch those two young players play. But yeah, hopefully they take care of business, and then we go into the weekend, right? Is there another game, or is the
No.
next game on Monday?
Yeah, they play Monday, Wednesday, Friday, Sunday.
Ooh, that's 4 games.
Yeah.
Yikes.
Yeah, so it'll be a very busy week for yours truly. So
Oh my
Wow,
God.
it's Dallas, Minnesota, Vegas, Wednesday, Friday, Sunday for next
Yeah.
week.
I feel like half of the league is maybe even more than half of the league, but even the two expansion teams I feel like are playing pretty darn good basketball. Like there's like 10, like right now, especially right now, still we're only a quarter into the season, but it's like 10 out of the 15 teams are kind of playing decent basketball to win games,
Right.
and it's just the bottom 5. So I feel like the league, even though when you get into expansion, it's supposed to make it less competitive, I don't think it necessarily worked that way. And I think some of that has to do with the international players all coming over and playing because of the CBA. The draft class is better than some folks thought it was going to be. And this is a competitive league. So I feel like outside of a handful of teams, like all of these games are up for grabs for the Valks.
Yeah.
All right.
No, I largely agree. I think this next week, I mean, if they can come out of it let's they got to handle their business in Seattle. Because again, you said the 2 young players, I'll say 3, because Flauge, Awafam, and Dominique, if they take care of that, I mean, it'd be cool if they could go, at the very least 2-2 in next week's 4 games, if not 3-1. If you go 3-1, you start to really solidify yourself, like what we were talking about at the top of the episode, being closer to like that top 6, maybe top 5 team,
Mhm.
as opposed to like battling it out for like that final spot.
So Conrado is gonna try and find some time. Now next week is busy, so we'll try and make it work. If he can come back on again. I know Brian's on vacation, busy week. We'll figure it out if we can. But yeah, a lot of games to watch. And, those of you who are in the Discord, we have game threads going on, and the commentary has been very passionate at times, but it's still so fun to talk to pretty smart basketball fans about this team. So I really enjoy them. I can't watch every game live, so I miss some of it. But I have a blast talking hoops with the Valkyries folks in our Discord. So appreciate all of you. All right, Conrado, quick, your Twitter and where you're publishing, and also you mentioned a new piece that you have coming out.
Yeah. As always, you can follow me on X at CP3_777. At the top of my profile, you'll see the link to my other podcast, East Meets West. I said other podcast, so I just got kind of include myself with you guys now. And for all my Valkyries coverage, my all Valkyries writing, you can find it at thepodiumfinish.net. And yeah, I'm not as fast as some of the other beat writers. I usually write like kind of more macro takes, macro articles as opposed to game recaps. But yeah, you should probably expect one probably tomorrow and maybe another one this weekend.
All right. Okay, so we'll be back at some point in the near future. Bry's going to be out for a week, but he'll be back after his vacation. And like I said, we'll try and get something with Conrado and myself next week if possible. So for Conrado and Brian, I am Double G. We will see you when we see you. Peace out.